All right. Hello, everyone. Took me a second to hop on here, so I appreciate your patience. Just gonna wait a minute here while everyone else pops in. Welcome. All right, so excited to have all of you here. It's gonna be great. All right, so most of you, this is probably your first live event with me. I want to say welcome, excited you're here. I love participation. So be active in the chat if you want. Feel free to ask your questions, bring up comments. My goal is to make sure whatever I'm presenting is going to be of most benefit to you. So the more you're interacting, the more I can do that. So feel free to share. Yeah. Then the other piece is, for those of you who don't know, I have a special announcement that's going to be made at the end of this webinar here, plus a special free gift for each of you. So you'll want to stay and watch through the whole thing so that you can find out about those and get access to it. And then, yeah, let's get started. So I want to start out by asking you, what is it in your life where you sit there and go, I'm not enough? And maybe that's actually not the thought that runs through your mind, right? Because that thought is usually hidden behind a lot of other stuff that's going on, right? Usually it shows up more as a should. These are the things I should be doing. Should is just a fancy way of saying whatever you are doing, whoever you are being right now, it's not enough. You should be or do more. So I want to hear, what are some of your shoulds? Take a minute, go ahead, put them in the chat if you want. We've got people here, so a little bit of background on me as well. I am a professional organizer. I started out doing that because I was tired of working 12-hour days and being away from my son when he was born. Absolutely fell in love with home organizing, but my favorite part was getting to work with the clients specifically and see how you would transform their lives, because it's more than just the stuff. It's usually about what's going on in here and in here. So that led me to coaching. I became a trained life coach through lots of different programs. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is throughout my whole life, I have always been fascinated with just knowledge in general. Didn't really care where it came from. I was raised a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I had studied in college as a dual major in biology and psychology. I've explored so many other religions and spirituality aspects. Like, I just love seeing all the different perspectives. So I bring a lot of those different perspectives to what I'm talking about. So this group, the people who are watching this webinar right now, some of you found me through professional organizing stuff. Some of you found me through my work that I've done with my own church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I'll be sharing a few of my own perspectives on that in this video as well. Some of you have found me through my life coaching. Some of you found me through the work that I do in leadership and businesses, right? There's a lot of different areas in which you could find your way to this webinar today. So what that tells me, though, is that this is a universal problem, right? This is not specific to one life experience, okay? And that feeling of I should do something is also not unique, right? How we fill in that blank may change, but the fact that it exists is there for most all of us in our life, right? And it's these shoulds that can run around like crazy in your mind, right? I should be doing more. I should get this done, right? The to-do lists that are never ending, right? We see it a lot around the holidays and with kids and being successful and being a good parent, and right, there are all these narratives that come around this idea of who I am, how I'm living my life, what I'm doing is not enough. And it can be a really big struggle, right? Some of the things I've seen here are I should keep my home clean. I should be able to, what was that? Oh, I should be able to manage things in my life better. I should be a better mom, right? And oftentimes, when you go out and, especially if you're into self help or coaching at all, right? There's this idea of like, don't should on yourself or ignore the shoulds or stop putting all this pressure on you, right? We talk about it and we talk about how these things are faults. But I don't think we always get to the core understanding of why, right? And I'm going to start off by sharing a little analogy from when I would work as a professional organizer. I want to make a note. So that's another thing. These are anything I do. I have a plan, I have my outline, I have my general idea of what I want to do, but I always keep myself open and intuitive to what new things I may not have thought of when I was preparing that I feel like are wanting to be said, wanting to be heard. So sometimes you may notice me looking out to the side, looking in different spaces, I'm looking at my notes, or I'm tuning in. Is what I'm saying resonating? Do I feel like it's a very guided experience for me? Everything I do is very, guided. So I'm going to make a quick note because there's another thing that I wanted to touch on afterwards. Okay, so back to home organizing though, okay? So when I would work with my home organizing clients, there was always this idea of my home is supposed to be like Pinterest perfect, right? I want it to look this beautiful thing with all these bins and the labels and everything has its own home and it's nicely lined up, right? And they would say, great, you're a professional organizer. This is what you do. Awesome. Come in, fix my home for me, make it look like this, and then I can live that life, right? They saw the problem or the solution being, I just need time and energy and some bins and containers, and then I can have that life that I want, right? And it was always a really interesting experience because some jobs, that was literally what I did. I came in, I did it for them, and I left. And those were really fun jobs for me, right? I got to play and organize this beautiful home. And when I left, it was very satisfying to see this beautiful space that had been created. But the interesting thing was, and this is not uncommon, those people supply a lot of business to professional organizers because the maintenance required in that situation is a lot. So they would often be calling you every few weeks to have you come back and do it all again, right? Some people, that's what they wanted, right? I don't want to have to deal with this. I would rather pay somebody to do it. Almost like a housekeeper, just come in and keep my things straight and looking nice, right? But there were other people, and these were the ones I enjoyed working with a lot more. And this was a big part of what I would teach in my home organizing, which was this idea that organizing is not something you do, or is not something you. Okay, I was going to mess up the saying, so I'm going to explain it a different way. Going to go a different way. Which was this idea that organizing is just the external piece of it, right? The physical, tangible part. What also goes on is this second layer that is underneath that is intangible. And this second piece says that there's a relationship between it, right? If I'm stressed, if I'm overwhelmed, if I feel like I'm not enough, if I feel anxious or depressed, all of those things are going to influence my physical environment around me, right? I'm going to be busy and frazzled, and as a result, I'm probably just going to come home and throw my stuff in a pile and not deal with it, not put it away. I may or may not get to the dishes. I may or may not clean off the counters, right? Because I'm so, there's so much else I got to do, I got to work on, right? That is getting transferred into my environment around me. Well, it goes the other way too, right? If something happens, right? Like last year, 2020, the world's shutting down, the coronavirus is coming out. We had an earthquake here in Utah, right? It was like happening. Immediately, my gut response was, okay, we've got some new challenges, new things coming up. There's this instability in my external environment. What can I do to help bring peace to my internal environment? You better believe I started cleaning my home, right? Straightening up the spaces. When we had a clean environment, there wasn't clothes on the floor, the counters weren't covered in stuff, the dishes were done. It was much, much easier to stay calm, to focus on the information, and to make better decisions about what we needed to do, right? That external peace and calm was able to come inside and help me. So there's this relationship that we have back and forth between our internal world and our external world. And what I would start to do with these clients is show them, hey, I can come in and create this picture perfect room for you. It's totally possible. But what would be even more amazing is for you to have the skills and ability to be able to do it. And some people I work with would be like, yeah, I'm a pretty organized person. Like, yeah, I can do it. And the story I would hear from them is, there's just a lot of stuff I have going on, right? I know how to put my things away. I know how to organize. I know how to put them in a bin. I just can't do all the things I'm supposed to do in a day. And a lot of these people were either moms with a bunch of kids or people who were working or in school and had busy, more professional lives, right? Those are kind of the two spaces I saw. And they're just like, I don't have the time or energy to keep up with all of this. And one of the things I would share with them was this idea of the pendulum principle. So, the pendulum principle, if you don't know what a pendulum is, it swings back and forth. Think of like a grandfather clock, that piece there, or sometimes different museums or things will have like giant pendulums that you can look at. Our planetarium here has one that's really fun. But a pendulum essentially goes back and forth, right, between two states. And all my clients would sit here and go, the options are chaos, right? Everything is just crazy, complete disorder. Or the option is perfection over here, where it's that pristine, Pinterest perfect, everything in its place. Oh, it's so wonderful, right? And they feel like I'm constantly going back and forth between these two spaces. And I don't know how to get the pendulum to stop. I just want it to stay over here at that Pinterest perfect all the time. And some people would try to manufacture that experience of perfection, and those were the people who would hire a professional organizer to come clean their home every week or two, right? So that they could manufacture the swing isn't happening because I'm just forcing it to come back here very quickly, right? And what I always tried to teach my students was, if you are alive and breathing, the pendulum is moving. And where I love to get this concept from was actually in a lot of my science classes. We talk about this concept of entropy. And it's this idea that chaos tends to increase, that the natural state of things is to move towards disorder, right? My bedroom doesn't spontaneously clean itself and put all of its things away, right? In nature, The leaves don't spontaneously fall all perfectly lined up and in a neat pile, right? It's chaos. They just fall randomly and sporadic. There's disorder, right? And part of the laws of thermodynamics say you can't avoid this. This is just part of how the world exists. And I would always take that concept and say to my clients, you cannot stop the pendulum. It is always going to be swinging. If I'm alive, I have folded my clothes and put them away nicely, and I have this beautifully, organized closet. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, I'm going to need to wake up and I'm going to pick out some new clothes and I'm going to pull them off the shelf and I'm going to put them on. They are no longer folded. I'm going to go about my day. They're going to get dirty. They're going to get smelly, right? The disorder of my closet is going to naturally happen no matter what I do. If I'm going to be alive and wear my clothes, I'm going to have to wash them again. I'm going to have to fold them and put them away again. That's just a part of how it works. And so when you start to accept that the pendulum has to swing, then we have to start looking at it and be like, okay, it's impossible for perfection to exist like this, right? I can't get the marker. Oh, sure, we'll use marker. I can't get the pendulum to stop over here. So perfect is unattainable, right? Because we know this is what life is. So then in my own life, I was thinking about this, right? Recovering perfectionist here. This is why I can teach this, because I've been there. And I remember as a student in high school, I had this amazing day, right? I was super involved as a high school student. I was, taking the AP classes, doing extracurricular activities, serving in leadership positions, like dating who would become my future husband, spending time with my family, right? All these things were going on in my life. And it seemed like I would always struggle to find enough time for it all, right? There was always so much homework to do or activities I was at, and I still want to spend time with my family and just be by myself sometimes too, right? And spend time with my friends and also just have time with my boyfriend and trying to juggle it all, right? That analogy of keeping all the balls up in the air, that's what we all experience. And then this one day, I was like, I don't even know what happened. I do now, but back then I didn't. And everything just seemed to fall into place perfectly that day. It was the perfect day. I got enough sleep. I got my homework done. I had time with my family, time with myself, was able to fulfill all my responsibilities, be with my boyfriend, all these things, right? And I never felt rushed. I never felt that hustle thing, right? It was just one thing just led to the next, led to the next. And I remember at the end of the day just glowing and being like, holy cow, I can't believe that just happened. And I remember talking to my dad and telling him about it and being like, I had the most amazing day today. And my little, 17, 18-year-old self was like, I did it. I figured out the secret to life. I don't know what all you adults are complaining about. I figured it out. And I remember my sweet dad's response. He was letting me celebrate, letting me enjoy my day, and was like, I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you had such a wonderful day. And I hope it continues. But there was this underlying tone of if only that was really the real world, right? And one day she's going to have to come to the realization that that's not how things happen. And of course, as I grew up, and even the next day, right, I tried to do it again. And of course, it didn't happen. The next day was just as chaotic as every other day seemed to be, right? And for a while, I just went on my life and I didn't worry about it and tried my best. But as I got older, there was still that, not even as I got older, it was there from the beginning, this longing of there was something I experienced that day that just felt right. That this was something I was supposed to be living, that this story of hustle and doing and busyness and there was something wrong about it. That wasn't the ideal version of life, of success. And I didn't want that. I wanted to find what was it in this magical day that I could carry with me and use that to live the rest of my life. Took a while, but I had a realization one day after thinking about this pendulum principle, right? And the swing back and forth, back and forth. That day felt perfectly balanced, right? It wasn't perfect in the sense of like manicured and designed, and I had charts and I was doing this and this and this and this every, right? I had time blocked everything and mapped it all out and knew how my day was going, right? There was obviously a little bit of structure and planning and involved, but it wasn't this curated perfection, right? It just felt balanced. There was time and energy enough for the things I wanted to do. And as I was looking at this pendulum, I realized this midpoint, this is where that magic day was. That magic day was not an experience over here, right? I had experienced days like this. Those were those curated, manufactured ones where I time blocked everything out and set the timers and, okay, I only have this much time and I gotta do this and I have to move on to the next thing. There's still that hustle energy there, right? There was none of that on my magic day. It's perfectly balanced, right? And on this other side, right, is just another version of that curated perfection feeling, right? Because over here, it's, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. I don't even know what to do. I can't even think straight. I don't know where to stop. I don't know how to, I'm on earth, I'm ever going to get all this done, right? Do you feel inside your body the similarity sensation here in total chaos and here in manufactured perfection, right? There's that urgency that everything is up to me and I got to do all the stuff in order to get the results I want. But that magic day was balanced. It felt so different. There was this calm about it. There was this presence. There was this joy, right? And what I came to discover was most of my life had been this, right? I try and keep the pendulum over here at manufactured perfection as long as I could, as hard as I could endure, until inevitably it starts to swing back, right? I'm pushing up against it and it's trying to swing back down. And I'm like, no, 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 stay over here, stay over here. But inevitably I can't. And it starts swinging back. And it can swing so far that I'm like, why am I even going to try? And it gets over here to total chaos. And I live there for a while. And then I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I've got to do something. And I think I'm pushing this back to the correct state of perfection. And now I've got to hold it over here and it's starting to swing back. And I'm not letting it. I'm like, no, 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 we're not going there again. I'm going to try harder this time. I'm going to learn more things. I'm going to get the systems right. I'm going to try harder, be more disciplined, wake up earlier, right? Do all the things because you're not allowed to move back. But inevitably, the pendulum always swings. And it was this constant battle, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And the most frustrating thing was inevitably I would swing through this balanced magical day, right? In both directions. So I would periodically be experiencing these days where I was like, I've got it, I did it. Thinking those days when I was here, I thought I was over here. And it was me holding everything up and keeping the pendulum here that was creating that blissful experience. When in reality, I was just passing through the midpoint, right? Caused so much confusion, so much heartache, so much struggle, right? And then I realized, hey, if the pendulum has to swing, and this is actually the goal, not this is the goal. What if I try and make my swings smaller and smaller and smaller, so that in essence, I'm having far more of my time is spent in those blissful, magical days, right? And I'm not having this huge swings in my life between manufactured perfection, I'm keeping it all together. Oh my gosh, it fell apart. It's total chaos in my life. I cannot even keep up with anything. I'm just done. I'm going to quit. Okay, this has gone on long enough. I've got to pull myself together. Let's do this. I'm ready. New year, new day, new me, right? Instead, it's just like, okay, yeah, that went really well today. Okay, that was a little bit more than I wanted, right? And I just practice swinging and making those swings smaller and smaller. And then it's not nearly as exhausting, right? Because we're focused a lot more of our energy in those magical days. So, how this would play out with my home organizing clients is I would purposely do some of my coaching calls with them and do some of my sessions with my background behind me being like my totally disorganized closet in my kitchen or showing the mess on my floor. I would post pictures of me coming home from a hard day doing a job or working or preparing and just dropping my stuff in a pile on the floor, right? My coat, my jacket, my shoes, not hanging it up. And literally in one post, like, to hang up my coat is to put it on a hook. It's not even like I had to go over to a closet, open the closet, pull out a hanger, put it on, hang it up, close it. None of that, right? It had nothing to do with how difficult or hard the task was, right? I was simply acknowledging I have done what I intended to do today. And I know that in the grand scheme of things today, hanging my coat up on that hook is not important. Letting all this stuff go, soaking in the satisfaction, because that happened on a day right before I was launching a new program. So I'd spent all this time and energy and effort getting this thing ready. And it was like my time and energy was best spent on building that program so that I could serve my clients. They were not going to care whether my coat was hung up or not. And if I took that extra time, right, it may seem like seconds, but it was the freedom that it represented. I just realized my microphone was gone, so hopefully you heard all of that. It was the freedom it represented, right? That I was not glued to some rule of I always have to hang my coat up on a hook, right? When we are trying to manufacture that state of perfection, we get caught up in rules, we get caught up in checklists and things because that's our effort to keep it there, right? I hung up my coat when I hang it up because I want my coat hung up, because I want my room clean, right? And I acknowledge that there are times that I need to do the dishes and times that I don't need to do the dishes, times that I have my kids put away their toys right away and times that I let them have it out, right? That's this balancing act. That's how we keep this swing focused more in the center space rather than here's the rule, I have to do the rule. Or you can't have rules. If you have no rules, it's complete anarchy, chaos, right? And we think there's this rebellion, right? So those are the two camps of people. We're going to move on a little bit. One camp of people is like, this is how it's done. You want a clean home. You want a good life. You want good kids. These are the rules. This is what you do. And you have other people, and they're like, heck no, that is way too much. I am not dealing with that. Because what is manufactured perfection? What is it really? It's control. The illusion that we are controlling our life, right? The illusion that I am the thing that is moving the pendulum. I am not. The pendulum will just move because that is life. I will always experience the 50-50. It is not me that is holding the pendulum up. It is not me that is, causing it to fall over here. I didn't make a mistake. The pendulum just swung, right? It is not me who says, okay, enough of this. We're going back, right? None of that. This is the illusion of control over here. Okay? So you have this other group of people and they're like, you're not going to control me, rebel, right? And they see over here for what it is. They see that manufactured perfection, that rigidness as that is control, and I do not want to be controlled, right? So they react, go to the other side. And these people are looking at them and they're going, you're complete anarchy, right? You're going to ruin your life. If you don't have this control, things are going to fall apart, right? And in both cases, we have two sides of the same coin, right? Same ultimate reaction. And what is it that both of these groups of people are seeking out? They're both driven by this innate knowingness inside of two very important things. One, I am meant to be free. That is part of the ultimate divine human experience. Has space for freedom, right? So that's one side. That's the truth these people are anchored in and that they're focused on. The other piece of that truth is to seek out those magic days, right? That part of my highest state of existence is to have this state where there is a structure and an order, the ability to progress, to move forward, to expand, to be more, right? And so people searching that way tend to gravitate over here. They understand that there is this grandness that cannot be reached when it is pure anarchy, right? That there is some set of divine inherent structure that is meant for us to be followed. And both people are ultimately seeking that middle point, that balance, that desire for more, right? Because people over here are looking at these people and they go, no, there's more to my life than just going with the wind. I'm meant to achieve things, to accomplish things, to have these wonderful relationships, to have this wonderful and incredible life. And over here, we get caught in the state of, I have to do these things in order to create what I know inherently I am meant to have, right? And over here, we have people going, I know I am meant to be free, that those things I am meant to have are not supposed to come from a place of struggle and control and force. It's supposed to feel like joy and ease and abundance, right? Two sides of the same coin, both plugged into a piece of the truth of who we all are. I sent out an email today. Some of you might have gotten it, some of you might not have read it yet, but it shares this story from the movie Finding Joe. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. So good. It's all about Joseph Campbell, and he created the hero's journey, which I'm sure you probably studied at one point or another in school. If you're not familiar with it, Joseph Campbell essentially studied in depth all of the stories of humanity, the legends, the myths, the novels, the movies, the romances, like throughout all of history, the Greeks, the Native Americans, the Japanese, right? Everybody's stories and myths. And he looked at them and he said, oh my gosh, there is one story at the root of all of these stories. And that one story he called the hero's journey. And the hero's journey essentially includes three pieces. The first piece is the call. The second piece is the initiation. And the third piece is the coming home. And what I love about the hero's journey is and Joseph Campbell's teachings is this idea that we are the heroes of our own story. That was really his message that he put out there to everyone, is that part of the reason we connect with these stories, while we love Harry Potter and we love Star Wars and we love, the Gilgamesh epic and why it survived through time, right? Is because it speaks to that part of us inside that says, I am here to transform from who I was and go on this journey and become someone new, right? And the hero's journey is how we do that. The beautiful thing about the hero's journey is it also puts into perspective. It's not up to our circumstances. It's not, we can play the I'm a victim, I can't do this because of that, I can't follow this dream in my life because of this situation, whatever. When in actuality, who's making that decision? You are. I decided because of X, I can't do Y. Right? I decided that. Not somebody else who was saying this or saying that, whatever. So his whole thing is, it is our story. And the entire thing revolves around our ability to choose, to decide, are we going to go on the journey? Are we going to answer the call? The first part of this hero's journey starts with the call, right? And in this beautiful documentary, they talk about how in our lives, we have those moments where the call is made. We are being asked to step up. Will we go on this adventure? Will we seek this new growth? Will we seek this new purpose in life? And we have the option to either answer the call or ignore it and hang it up, right? But when we ignore it and hang it up, it's gonna come back. The call will always come back. And so we can choose, are we going to be looking for it, seeking it out, so that we can recognize it when it comes our way and be like, that's the call. That's the invitation for me to step up. Or are we going to walk around, please nobody call me, please, 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 nobody tell me that I have to step it up. I'm so overwhelmed as I already am. Ask me to do another thing and I'm going to crumble under the weight of it. Right? So what happens? Financial struggles, marriage struggles, job struggles, family struggles, right? We get bigger and bigger things to try and get our attention. There's a call out here for you. Are you going to wait for the midlife crisis, for the physical, mental, emotional breakdown from all the hustle and all the doing, all of the trying to force the pendulum here, right? This is hiding from the call. This is, no, I want to control everything. I'm safe. It's okay. The world is scary. I don't want the pendulum to swing, right? You get to choose, though. It doesn't have to be a big, blaring thing. The purpose of the call is simply to awaken us to the opportunity, to the existence that there is more, that there is more in who we are and more in what we can do and who we can be, right? The call is what starts it all. I love looking back at what happened in 2020, right? And the coronavirus, because when we look at that, that was essentially a global shaking, a global call. Hey, humanity, enough. It's time for something more. It's time to end these stories of struggle, of lack, of division, of power struggles, of less than, more than. It's done. We are calling you as humanity and inviting you to step up to a higher way of living, a state of thriving, a state of connection, a state of purpose and meaning, of support, of unity, of wholeness, right? That was the call. And a lot of us heard it. A lot of us were given the space to go inside, right? I often use my 5-step process for home organizing as a little analogy of this, right? Anytime I was going to organize a new space, there were 5 steps that we would do. And the first one was, if we're going to clean out a drawer, clean out a closet, whatever, is to take everything out and to spread it out and to start looking at it and sorting it. And when I would do this, it looks like you are making the problem 10,000 times worse. We're like, it was already cluttered, but now we are in chaos, right? At least it was contained in the drawer before. We should go back to the drawer, people. Why is all this stuff over the closet? This is not what I wanted. I wanted a nice organized closet. And here you've gone and ruined my whole office. I now have stuff all over the place. Right? It's very overwhelming too. I would have so many clients, and at this stage, this is the beginning part. This is the most intense part. This is the part that they usually hired me for, because you have to pull everything out, right? I love Marie Kondo, and part of her method, especially with clothes, you get all the clothes you own and you put them in a big pile on your bed. Why? Because that does something to you when you have to look at that and go, oh, this is my mess. Oh, this is what I've created, right? And we don't judge it though, right? That's where it tends to get off track, right? We look at it and we go, oh man, I messed up so hard. Look at how much money I have wasted. Look at all these clothes I am never going to wear. I can't believe the pile is even that big. I had no idea I had so many shirts or shoes or, right? And we start beating ourselves up. I failed. I did wrong. No. This is just your current pile of clothes. No judgment, right? This is what your current experience and what you were capable and how you were living created. You now have an opportunity to look at that pile of clothes, look at that clutter there, and say, is this what I want? Or do I want to create something different this time? Right? And what I would do with my clients, we dump everything out. You have to look at what you already have in order to be able to make decisions about what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, right? So if I were organizing a kitchen, and on the kitchen counter there's like a jar, and in it there's all these wooden spoons and spatulas and stuff, right? If we were just looking at that and I asked her, what do you want to keep and what would you like to get rid of? She might look and go, oh yeah, well, I pretty much use everything there, so we can keep it, right? Okay, so all of those things are staying there. Well, as we're coming along and we're cleaning up the rest of the kitchen and we're organizing other things, oh, I found another wooden spoon. Into the container it goes, right? So we have this container. It starts out with a few wooden spoons in it. Oh, but here's another one I found. Oh, and I found a spatula. Oh, and there were a couple that were actually in this drawer over here. And oh, these were some fun Christmas ones that I was given. I'm gonna put those ones in there too, so that I can use them with my grandkids. And oh, I like these ones too. I found some more. And what do you know? Before you know it, there's tons of stuff in here, right? But if instead we are intentional and we go out and we seek to find all of the stuff, dump it out. I don't know if you can see this. Dump it out. I'm going to look at it, okay? Which of these things do I want to keep? Well, let's kind of organize them a little bit. Let's get all the pens together and the pencils together, because, I don't want to get rid of my only pencil. And okay, let's put the expo markers together here. And these are just more of the regular markers. Another pen. Okay. So now I've kind of got a better idea. 2 pencils is pretty good. It's kind of a lot of pens. Silver is kind of hard to use. This one doesn't really work anymore. That one doesn't have a lid. Okay, I like these two. I like my pencils. Oh, I don't need 2 green expo markers, so let's see which one works. Right? Like we start going through this process of looking at each item individually and deciding, do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? Do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? This is the same thing that we are inspired to do in all aspects of our life. Here's a behavior I've been doing. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? Here's a thought I have. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? Here's a belief I've been living from. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? Here's a societal message I've been told. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? Right? It goes on and on. This is the hardest part though, right? Because it looks like we're making the problem worse. Right? And I look around, I see the whole world now through like a coaching lens, right? So when I look around at some of the chaos that's going on in the world and the division that is created, and what I see is one of those stretchy man wall climbers, right? I don't know if you remember them. They're like made of this like sticky plastic glue, and you throw them at the wall and they like fall down it, right? But it's like a sticky man, yeah? Well, if you were to imagine that that sticky man is who they are down here, it has the opportunity to come into a state of existence up here that's higher, that's more expanded, that's holier even, right? What do? You start pulling it to get it up there, right? And through pulling it, you've got this stretch created, and it's creating this division, and it's like, holy cow, stop stretching, you're gonna snap in half, this is gonna be so bad, right? And it creates all this fear. Oh no, no, no. But the more of us that start to come and be stretched into that higher state, the quicker the last bit can pop back up, right? And suddenly we're all up here in this higher state. So division isn't something to be feared, especially when you understand the divine plan of anything. I don't care whether you believe in God or not. I shouldn't say I don't care. That's not what I mean. This truth I have found to be not dependent on a belief in any specific God. It is only dependent upon the belief that there is a higher order, power, whatever you want to call it, right? Even the idea that it is done, right? We get there. Expansion is always possible. Growth is always possible. And what from our human perspective appears like failure, appears like that stretchy man has been snapped in half, the divine stretchy man cannot snap, right? It's just how much are we going to resist? How much are we going to say, nope, nope, nope. I like my ways of struggle. I like my ways of hardship. I like my ways of doing. I'm scared to see who I am. I'm scared to be responsible for myself. I'm scared to say that if something goes wrong, it's only my fault. I'm scared to live that state of life. But what comes with that state of life is abundance, ease, joy, connection. It's the hero's journey. It's getting to that higher state, right? And I believe it's the ultimate destiny for all of humankind. First comes the call. When you have that call and you decide to answer it, next comes the initiation. The initiation is where you start out on that journey. You are now taking action. You've said, okay, I'm going to do this. You leave home and you quit the job. You apply for the school. You marry the person, right? Whatever that next thing is. You divorce the person, right? Whatever it is. You're taking that next step. I believe 2021 as a human experience is our initiation, our opportunity to sit here and go, okay, we learned a lot in 2020. We learned a lot about who we are. We learned a lot about what's true and what's not, right? Oh, you can't close down things. How will businesses structure, survive, whatever? We adapt, we adjust, we learn different things, right? Now, please don't hear in this. I'm not trying to be unsensitive, right? Personally had some hardships in 2020, okay? Making this adjustment is not easy, right? There are those moments in between where we were and switching to a new state of being, that critical piece of the pivot point where you're not doing great, where everything is falling apart, where the income is not coming in, right? It's a piece of it. I want to acknowledge that and make sure it's known. That's a very real piece of it. But we have this opportunity right now to start taking action, to start stepping forward and saying, this is who I want to be. I'm going on an adventure. In the words of Bilbo Baggins, right? In The Hobbit, he's running out the front door, leaving the Shire behind. He can't believe he's doing it. It's crazy insane, but by gosh darn it, he's doing it. Right? Again, this is sometimes seen as a rebellion, as acting out, right? And there are people who certainly go on their hero's journey with that energy to it, right? But the truth Joseph Campbell tells us is that each and every one of us is meant to go on our own hero's journey. That this rebellion is not the exception, those who are doing it wrong, those who are making a mistake. It's actually the whole point of our mortal experience, to go on a journey, to better ourselves, to become something more. Because a lot of my audience shares my same faith, and because it's been a part of my life, I always like to be real. And a part of that includes sharing some of my perspectives with that. And so I want to take a minute here to share some with you. Anytime there is something in our lives, okay, before we get to the religious stuff, backing up a bit. Anytime there's something in our lives that we feel anger or I'm not enough rising up within us, okay, that's usually an indicator that we are out of alignment with our highest self. And it's that highest self that is saying, hey, this is who I am. And we're playing out all the way over here, all the way over here. And highest self is like, when you're ready, right? It's that stretching man. We're stretching ourselves. And it's like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. I feel angry. Right? Higher self does not move. Higher self always stays in the truth of the greatness, genius, brilliance, ability, capability of each and every one of us. Right? It is up to us to decide what we're going to do with that other piece. Are we going to join it? Or are we going to fight the sticky man and just create all this tension, right? But in identifying that tension is the way forward, right? So when there are things that cause us discomfort, that cause us pain, I like to view those as a distortion. They're a distortion of myself, my highest self. They're a distortion, I believe, of God. God does not create these things He simply allows them to exist as part of the mortal experience, as part of our being here on earth. Call it ego, call it shadow, call it temptation, Satan, the devil, whatever you want. There's a force here that seeks to create illusions, seeks to distort and manipulate. And it is when we buy into those, and not even buy into, right? That makes it sound like it's this really big thing. We've been totally deceived, whatever, right? Sometimes that's just part of the journey, right? Can't see the trees, forest through the trees or whatever, right? It's just part of the journey, part of the experience. That we get to learn how to look beyond the distortion, how to see the truth of what is whole and real and divine, right? So, one of the ways this showed up for a lot of people I know in my faith as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints comes around the idea of women in the priesthood and polygamy. They're two very painful points for a lot of women. For me personally, the women in the priesthood one, I had my moments of struggle, right? I remember being a teenager and looking at some of the people around me being like, I am just as much enough. I'm just as good, as spiritual, as in tune, as worthy. Like, why not me? What is so special about them? Right? And a lot of this was unconscious for a long time. I didn't realize that inherently by saying these people have something and making it seem like these people do not, it creates this imbalance, right? And a lot of people notice that, acknowledge that, and say, hey, we need to speak up about this, right? I went on my whole own journey of learning to understand the role of women, the role of priesthood. I cannot tell you the most amazing, beautiful story that came out of that. The brilliance and beauty that God did not take away from his women because he thought less of them, because he thought them incapable, because he thought they could not be the same as men. Not once, not for a moment. I believe the opposite is true. And they said, hey, this world's going to get a little bit crazy. The experiences you're going to have in mortal life, they're going to be hard. We're going to set you up and prepare you so that even in your hardships, we'll be helping mold you into being the help, the rescuer, the strong one who will come back at the end to bring us back into that beautiful state of unity and abundance. Okay? I have a whole nother video on this. If you're LDS and you want more details, go to Sisters Leading Zion, or there should be a link to in that I am Emily Carolyn Baker Instagram page, either of those, or my YouTube channel, I am Emily Carolyn Baker, where you can get that whole video where I go into the depth of that story. But in essence, the message here overall is you are incredible as you are right now, right? So the story I told in that email, the Buddha statue, I'm going to do it real quick in case you hadn't read it. There was in Thailand, this village, and they had this beautiful, big, giant, massive, right? Golden Buddha statue. And they got word that an opposing army was going to be coming through their village. So they covered it up with all this mud and concrete to make it appear as if it was simply a stone Buddha, much less, not really worth anything, not very valuable. Sure enough, the army comes through. They think it's just a stone Buddha. And even while so they don't plunder it. They don't do anything with it. They just kind of leave it alone. They end up occupying this village for a long time. And as time goes on, the people start to forget, right? The ones who knew that it was a gold statue to begin with die off, aren't there, whatever, right? The village forgets as a whole that this was a gold statue. Eventually, the army leaves, but the village still has forgotten. Until one day, a young man is meditating on the statue. He notices a little bit of it is cracked, and when he goes to get up, a piece of the concrete falls off and shows the golden Buddha underneath. And he's so excited. He's like, oh my gosh, guys, the Buddha statue is gold. So they come with their pickaxes and stuff and they start pulling all of the concrete pieces off until they have this beautiful Buddha, golden, brilliant. Okay? It's just been hidden, preserved until it was time and the people were ready to remember, to see, were willing to pull off the concrete and remember the great worth inside. This little story is such an analogy to me of who each and every one of us is, of what our hero journey is, right? The call we get is that crack, right? It looks like our life is falling apart and pieces, chunks start coming off. And if you just look outward, all you see are pieces of rubble of you on the ground. And it's like, oh my gosh, my life is in ruins, right? But what's actually happening is you're starting your journey on your hero's journey. The journey to revealing the gold that you always were, that you are this very moment. Whatever humanness, whatever failings, whatever weakness, whatever I'm not as good, imposter syndrome, I can't do this, I'm not enough, people are better, whatever version it takes for you, that is your concrete and mud. You are the golden Buddha inside. Okay? And every single one of us is a golden Buddha. Some of us have packed a lot more of their stuff on top of our statue, right? We've let vines grow on us. Maybe we're covered by a forest. Like you can't even tell there's a statue there anymore, right? We all have our own levels of work to get there. But it doesn't change the fact that right now, underneath that forest, underneath the dust and cobwebs, underneath the concrete and the mud, is the golden Buddha you. This is the joy of my work. This is exactly what I get to do. I find people who have heard the call, who have seen chips falling off of themselves, whose stuff in their life has been dumped out, and they're like, there's so much chaos here. I don't know what to deal with it. I'm afraid, I'm frightened. I don't know how to move forward. I get to say, hey, it's okay. You're starting your hero's journey. It's going to be amazing. You're going to come out the other side. And I'm going to walk with you and I'm going to show you how to get there. I don't know what your path looks like. I don't know where you're going to end up, but I don't need to because you know that. All you need is somebody to help you decide, help you pull out the pens, pull out the spoons and decide, what is this? Did I know I had this? That doesn't really matter because all that matters is, am I going to keep it or am I going to get rid of it? That's how we start to uncover who we are. That's how we move into the state of being instead of doing. Doing says, all these things are important. I need more utensils so that I can be a better baker. I'm going to buy every cooking gadget there is, every cookbook, every bowl, everything I can get because I want to be a baker. When in actuality, if you talk to a lot of bakers, they have maybe 5 kitchen tools that they're like, these are the essentials. This is what you need in order to be a baker. Okay? And how do we get from buying the whole kitchen section of Bath and Body Works or IKEA or Target, right, to 5 essential tools that we use to become masterfuls in our creation? Go on our hero's journey. We're willing to dump the stuff out, to look at each one, to make decisions. I am so excited to let you all know that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm opening up the Finishing School for Women of Purpose. It's going to be a school for women who are ready to go on their hero's journey, to switch out of a state of doing, to become anchored in the truth of who they are, to uncover that Buddha, that golden version of you. Okay? Every month, there's going to be a new program launching with a new specific focus that we'll be looking at. January's is so perfect right now. I did not realize what was going to be going on in the world when I created this program. Right? A few months ago, I was like, what should be January? I felt the correct thing was to do a class called Calm in the Storm. And it was all about teaching women how to be in the world, but not of the world, which is essentially to be so anchored in the knowingness that you are a gold Buddha, no matter how chaotic it gets when all the pickaxes are coming, right? And you're going through the process, no matter what else is going on in the world, there's a hurricane, there's a typhoon, there's a flooding. None of that changes the fact that you are a golden Buddha, that you are a divine being of infinite worth. That anchoring is what will lead you to take inspired action. This journey of becoming who you are meant to be will naturally lead you to do things in the world that will help pull all of humanity and make our journey easier. You're joining the top part of the stretch and speeding up the process for everyone else so that we can jump to that higher existence, that world that is meant for more. Humanity is saying we are ready. That is the restlessness, the anger, the right? Because inside each and every one of us is that burning knowing that there is more. More to who we are, more to what is available for us in our own lives, but also in our human existence. Hate is not the opposite of love, right? The opposite of love is indifference. When you are indifferent about something, you don't care one way or another what happens. Whatever. When you love yourself, when you love your neighbor, when you love the world and want the best for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for all of the human experience, then you feel hate when it feels like that reality can't be reached, that we are off track. We are not on course. Right? And it's very easy to get caught up in those emotions, to get caught up in feeling doom and gloom, anxiousness, hopelessness. There is one thing I want you to take from this, whether you ever work with me or not, whether you ever listen to another thing I put out there, take this away. Do not fall to apathy. When you fall to apathy, you've lost the battle. The pain, the anger, the hurt, it feels like it's making things worse. It looks like it's making things worse. You can pull up tons of news stories, point to tons of articles, give me all the examples in the physical environment of how this is worse. And I'm going to come at you as my professional organizer and say, we're dumping the desk drawer out. We're now going to have an opportunity to decide, to look at each thing that was in there and decide, is this what I want? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? To keep it? Do I want to get rid of it? Am I bringing this to my greater existence? Whether you call it utopia, Zion, the New Jerusalem, millennium, 5D, heaven on earth, it is the ultimate destiny of all of humanity. right there, right? That's the Pinterest perfect room that each of us has been yearning for. The desk drawer's been dumped out. You get to decide. Are we bringing this with us? Or are we letting it go? Are we bringing this to heaven on earth? Or are we letting it go? Right? So while that anger, while that hurt feels like a bad thing, feels like everything is falling apart, it is actually the key. It is actually essential. It is actually what will guide us to making the ability to say, I don't want to bring this. I want to get rid of this. This is not meant to be part of the experience. Right? The more you understand the 5-step process that I would teach my clients, there was a reason, because this first step is the hard part. It's the overwhelming one. It's the frightening one. It's where people, when they try to do it on their own, they turn around and run and hide. Right? And if you are switching from the state of I need to do things in order to have heaven on earth so that I can be the highest expression of myself, that's what people get caught up in, believing that, right? I'm telling you, that's not the way we get there. The way we get there is I'm going to be the highest expression of myself in order to do the things that need to get done so that we can have heaven on earth, right? But doing that first step, becoming rooted in being, is really hard to do by yourself. Really hard. I did not do it by myself. I cannot tell you the support team I have had behind me, right? It's hard. While the world is dealing with its stuff too, we're having our own battles. We're having our own internal struggles because it starts with us before it ever goes to a system. Before we ever change a political system, change the education, change the financial system. I don't care what system you pick, scientific, all of those. They're going to have to go through their own hero's journey, their own organizing process, deciding what we're going to keep, what we're going to get rid of, right? But it starts with our own. And it starts with our own willingness to sit there and go, this is really overwhelming. This is really stressful. I'm not sure I can do it. I really want to just close this door and let's just never go in this part of the house again and just let it build up with junk and clutter. And yeah, I don't ever want to have to deal with it, right? This is what a lot of us want to do. And you have somebody else who can show you, no, this is part of the process. I will walk you with it. I am here with you. I've been on the other side. I've been through the mess, the clutter, and the chaos, and I found the Pinterest perfect on the other side. I'm going to show you to. I'm going to walk you through, right? That's what a coach does. That's the work I get to do. My bet is if you're somebody who's watching this, you've heard the call. Many of you have already answered it. Some of you, it's still ringing. Maybe you've hung up on it. But let this be the invitation. Are you ready to step up? Are you ready to say, I'm going on an adventure, right? Bilbo, Frodo, they didn't go by themselves. They're surrounded by people. They couldn't have made it without them. This is speaking to you. If you're sitting here going, I'm terrified, but I want this. It's speaking directly to my heart, to my soul. My mind is confused, doesn't know how I could do this. Whatever stories your mind is telling, push them aside. Listen here. What are you feeling? Reach out to me. There's an application that you can go straight to in my bio. If you're like, yes, I'm in, it's done, head there, go there now. If you're not quite sure, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. This might be the right thing for you, but it also might not be. Your Samwise Gamgee, your Gandalf, may be someone else and maybe out there. Maybe I know them. Maybe I'm just supposed to connect you with them. You crossed paths with me for a reason, though. Somewhere on your hero's journey, I had a part to play. Maybe it was just a message you needed to hear in this video. Maybe you're meant to come work with me. And if you feel like you're somebody who's meant to come work with me because you know you are meant for more, this world is meant for more, and we are going great places, I can't wait to work with you. It's going to be amazing. So, my big announcement, finishing school opens up today. Applications are open this week. We will have our first session next Monday. It runs for 8 weeks. There is a coaching call / lesson that will run every week. Those are live. This is a group program. You will also have access to Voxer, which is an app on your phone where we can talk throughout the week. You can connect with the other people in the group, ask your questions, share your wins, all that awesome stuff. There's an option to increase your experience and to have private one-on-one coaching added on top to your school package, right? Get the platinum experience. And in that case, you would get unlimited access to me, private one-on-one coaching calls. We'll go back. I'll help you discover what's the concrete you've been wearing, help you take it off, because that can be a painful process, right? We all have wounds and trauma and healing from the distortions and experience of mortal life, right? It's a part of the process. So if anything of this sounds like something you're interested in, let me know. And know that whatever happens in the coming weeks and days ahead, whatever storms blow, you are gold, my dear. Always have been and always will be. So grateful to have had you here. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Oh, and actually, for those of you who are here live, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll stay on here for a minute more and then, yeah, answer any that come in. So glad to have had you here live. And if you don't know where the chat is, it's usually at the bottom of the screen. There's like a little bubble you can click on. Yeah, so it's an 8-week program. The January one is Calm in the Storm. It runs through January and February. I will be starting a new program in February that will run through February and March. And that continues throughout the year. If you want to do all 12, well, actually 11 because we take December off, but all 11 courses, you do get a discount. You also get a discount if you pay in full. What else? Yes, you can sign up for any program during the registration window. Usually it'll be the full month before you can register for the next program. If you do all 11, that is, plus I have one additional training course called Leadership 101. That is my leadership certification program. So you do all 12 courses, and that's wonderful. So that's another option. Yeah. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the day.